In this video, we are going to look at how to absolutely ace your thesis defense. So you've written your thesis hundreds of pages or lesser, countless cups of coffee, and probably a few tears. It's a monumental achievement. But now you have the final obstacle, the defense, the Viva Voce, the oral exams. And this always sounds intimidating, doesn't it? Like you are going into some courtroom to be jumped. But I'm here to tell you that that is the wrong way to think about it. Stay with me. We are going to reframe this entire event, and I'm going to give you a practical step-by-step, so I call it a battle plan to not just survive, but to absolutely destroy it. So let's start with the most important mindset shift. So part one, the mindset. From the moment you submit your thesis, you need to start thinking of yourself not as a student, but as the expert on your specific topic. Think about it. You've spent years or probably months living and breathing this research. Your examiners are experts in their field, fine, but you are the world's leading expert on this particular project. So your defense is not an interrogation. It's more like a conversation among scholars, among experts. And this is probably going to be your first academic discussion. The goal of a defense is not to tear you down, unless you probably have an issue with the panel. I'm just kidding. In fact, the statistics are always in your favor in this case. If your supervisor has let you come for this defense, they believe you are ready to pass. If your name is on that list for the defense, that means you have an equal chance of passing. So this is a formality to confirm what they already know. You have made an original contribution to knowledge. So you walk into that room, or if it's a virtual call, log into that call with the confidence of the experts that you are. So now that is out of the way, you have already changed your mindset. You are the experts now, right? Let's now focus on the deep preparation. One thing you should always know is that confidence comes from preparation. And you should prepare like a pro. What's the first step to preparation? Reread your thesis, but do it smartly. So after you've submitted your thesis and you've been given the go-ahead for the defense, give your thesis a fresh read. Don't just skim it. Read it as if you are an external critic. You could probably use a red pen or a separate notebook to comment on your thesis. So if you've printed it out, if you have a soft copy, you can use a red pen to critique. Or if it's on your PC, you can have a separate notebook so that as you read, you're writing comments about areas that you think you can improve. So your goal here is to find every single weakness, every typo, every argument that could even be stronger. You can also focus on finding every limitation. The goal here is to be your own worst critic. And this is not to discourage you. It's rather to arm you, to prepare you. You want to find these flaws before your examiners do. You want to find these flaws before your examiners do. So first, reread your thesis, but smartly like your own worst critic. And the second step in the preparation phase is to create a Q&A Bible, a question and answer Bible. This is your secret weapon. Compile a massive list of every possible question you could be asked. I'll provide a Google link to a document that I have that I've pasted a list of possible defense questions. And I think some have the answers as well. So you can also download and go through and adapt it to your study. Right? So you can, and in these situations, you can start with the big 5 questions that almost certainly come up in some form. One of the major questions that come up is, what is your study about and why did you choose it? Mostly this question is always the first they ask you. Then the next question is, how did you do it? So they're asking about your methodology. And the third question is, what did you find? And this relates to your key findings. And the other question is, so what? In this case, you're asking about the significance and contribution of your work. So they could ask you about the significance and contribution of your work. Then the fifth question, What are the limitations of your study and what would you do differently? So these big 5 questions should be some of the key preparations that you've done and have armed in your arsenal, right? Then let's look at the next step. Go deeper. Don't just leave things at the surface level. You can look at online forums or ask your senior colleagues, people that have probably graduated before you. And most importantly, if your work is in the PhD phase and you've submitted your work to journals for publications and you've received comments on any of your chapters, use those comments from the chapters and prepare. Because reviewers are always excellent at asking tough and insightful research questions. So don't just stop at your material. Go deeper. Look at online forums. Ask your senior students or your colleagues what they've been through so that you can also arm yourself more. Then one other thing you can also do is to research your examiners. Research your examiners. If you have the list of people who are going to be on the panel, look them up. Read a few of their recent papers, what their research interests are, and what methodologies they favor. Because an examiner who specializes in quantitative methods might probe you about your statistical choices, while an examiner who is a theorist will question your framework. So usually when you look up your examiners and you know more about their methodology preferences, you can anticipate their perspective. And anticipating this is a huge advantage for you. Then let's look at the third step. Master the yes but technique. Yeah. For every weakness or limitation that you've identified, prepare a structured response. Look, at this stage, you can't do any correction at your end and submit again. You've already submitted the work. So every weakness or limitation you've identified in your documents or study, prepare a structured response. And before we go further, if you've prepared a structured response, most of us like to commit it to memory. And I don't recommend that. I recommend understanding your weakness so that you can have the response off head, right? You have to understand it. But if you prepare a structured response and you've committed it to memory and you go there to deliver it like a robot, it kind of looks some way, you know. You might give the perfect answer, but just stating it as if you are reciting a nursery rhyme is bad. So even if you've committed it to memory, your delivery should look as though you are thinking about it, you know. So, okay, let's get back to preparing a structured response. So the formula is to acknowledge, justify, and redirect. The formula is to acknowledge, justify, and redirect. So for every weakness or limitation you've identified, acknowledge it, justify it, and redirect. Let's say you use a small sample size and one of your examiners say, oh, I've noticed you've used a small sample size. The first part of the formula is acknowledge. So you are saying, oh, you are absolutely right. The sample size of 30 is a limitation. Then we move to justification. This was a necessary trade-off due to the time constraints of this master's degree and also the in-depth qualitative nature of the interviews I was supposed to do. So you are just basically justifying that the master's time given to you did not allow enough time to do this in-depth qualitative interview you were supposed to do. That is why you were only able to collect 30. Then you redirect. So acknowledge, justify, redirect. Redirect is, however, this does not mean the data we collected was not rich and detailed. Or you can say something like, for the redirection, you can say something like, however, this does open a clear avenue for future research, which will be to conduct a larger scale survey to test if these findings still hold in a bigger population, right? So you acknowledge, justify, and redirect. Then 4. So acknowledge, justify, and redirect. This technique alone shows critical thinking, maturity, and turns a potential weakness into a demonstration of your understanding of your topic. So let's look at part 3 of preparing for your Viva Voce. Let's look at a practical drill. Knowing the answers is not enough. You need to be able to deliver them calmly under pressure. Okay. So let's look at the PowerPoint randomizer. This is one technique, the PowerPoint randomizer drill. This is a game changer. You take all the questions from your Q&A Bible that you've created earlier and put each one on a separate PowerPoint slide. Then use a simple macro, or you can just have a friend who is going to shuffle these slides or deck. So set each slide to advance automatically after 45 seconds, or you can let a friend help you. So you practice. As each random question pops up, you give yourself 45 seconds to give a concise, structured answer. So you are just doing a mock-up question and answer session, right? This actually stimulates the unpredictability of your real defense and even trains you to think on your feet. So again, the PowerPoint randomizer drill. You take all the questions from your Q&A Bible and put it on a separate PowerPoint slide, each of them. Then you randomly change the slides and answer the questions within 45 seconds. Then 2, you practice out loud. Don't just rehearse in your head, okay? Most of us think we can dance in our head, but when it gets to the practical aspect, we can't do anything. So practice out loud. Say the words. Practice your 3 to 5 minutes answer to a question like, tell me about your thesis, until it is smooth and natural, okay? So if you are practicing, for example, tell me about your thesis, practice it out loud until it is very smooth and natural, until you feel like, yeah, this is very good to even present to the examiners. Do it in front of a mirror, record yourself, or better yet, do a mock defense with your colleagues. Then talking about the mock defense, this is usually non-negotiable, right? If you are a person with friends, or you have a group of other educated family members, you can gather this panel, especially people who are not experts in the field, maybe, friends, students from other departments, or even your partner. Why am I saying they should mostly be non-experts? Because non-experts will judge you on your clarity and communication, not the technical details. You and your other colleagues in your department will get probably what you're saying, but someone who is a non-expert will judge you on your clarity and communication. If you can explain your complex research to them, you can explain it to anyone. So you can also have them ask you questions from your list and even throw in some curveballs to see how you are going to respond. And also, let's look at this part 4. And I think it's part 4, the day of the defense. So let's talk about execution. Before you go in, always know the format. Is it going to be public? How long is the presentation? What is the dress code? If you have to travel, plan your travel, have backups for your presentation. Unless you've already emailed it ahead of time, always have a backup for your presentation files. You can have a USB, email it to yourself, or have handouts. Always control the controllables. Things that you have power over, control them. Then, when you get to the defense, the opening, right? What are you going to start with? Most of us usually go there and say, good morning, my name is... I think sometimes that is okay. Yeah, you can, good morning, my name is John. But if you can, start with an attention grabber. This is not compulsory, right? Good morning, my name is always cool. So you can start with good morning, my name is... Then your first slide is probably showing the title of your topic. So good morning, my name is... My research was on... Then you mention the topic. But if you have the option and you still have less anxiety, you can start with an attention grabber. You can start with a surprising statistic like a provocative question or a brief relatable story that illustrates why your research matters. Again, this all depends on your time limits. If you have 15 minutes or 10 minutes, I don't think you should go and be doing this. But it's always good to hook them up from the very first moment you step there. You can give them a surprising statistic from your study. For example, do you know that 5% of children in this community smoke? That's very surprising, right? So you've already opened their minds up to hear more about what you are going to present on. But again, if this is going to be very, very anxiety inducing, just start with the normal one. Good morning, my name is. Okay. Then during the question and answer session, always listen, then pause. Let the examiner finish their question completely. Sometimes it might be a long, rambling one. Sometimes the examiners like to talk a lot. Then take a breath, a 3 to 5 second pause. Always pause. Don't rush into things. Always take a long 3 to 5 second pause. This is also a powerful technique because it shows that you are a thoughtful and not a panicked person. So when they see you as this reserved, calm, and thoughtful person, sometimes they also go easy on you. If you have the choice or if you have the time, you can also rephrase for clarity. If you are even slightly unsure of what is being said, you can still say, that is an interesting question. If I understand correctly, you are asking about, then you rephrase the question in your own words. That is, if you are slightly unsure of what has been said, you use this technique. But most of the time, you can also use this technique continuously because you are trying to repeat the question to them so that they can confirm it. And at the same time, you are also thinking of the correct answer. So that is an interesting question. If I understand correctly, you are asking about why my sample size is lower than expected. Is that right? That's very cool. This is a professional and very effective technique. And also structure your answer. Structure your answer. Don't go there and ramble. So sometimes you can structure your answer by saying, I like to make 3 points in this response. First, this is because. Second, this is because. And finally, so you've actually made your answer very structured. You're not just speaking randomly and rambling about. This actually makes your responses sound clear and make you an authoritative source. Then here is one aspect that most people want to know about. What if you don't know? What if you don't know what you've been asked? What if you don't know the answer? This is very, very, very important. Do not fake it. Because these are also experts. They will definitely know. Instead, have a routine. You can say something like, that is a really fascinating question. And to be honest, it falls outside the scope of what I was able to investigate in this period. Based on my findings, I will speculate that perhaps then you give a response or something you think might a projection from what you have found. And you can also say, but it will require further research to know for sure. Just be honest. This is very honest, professional, and shows that you can think critically beyond your data. And if you've also been given a suggestion or another question which you realize that you still don't know and you probably might not have thought of in the first place, you can easily say something like, thank you for the suggestion. I will definitely have to look at that in future study. That is very great. Or you can say, thank you for your point. I'll definitely put that down for future research. And I think talking about gestures, it depends on how your presentation sets up. If it's an online presentation and your face is the only one showing, that is okay. I don't think you need to do any random gestures, right? But sometimes people just occasionally nod when they are being talked to. Probably that will make them feel more relatable. But if you are in person and in front of your examiners, you don't expect to stand there like a mannequin, right? It's either you are moving about, or if there's a presentation behind you, you are standing beside the presentation whilst talking. So some of the gestures that I think I've noticed are something like the triangle. Yeah, the triangle. So you can be saying something insightful and do something like this, or maybe like this. Or if you're talking about maybe points, you could be leveling. For example, this, and that, this, and that. Then another gesture that I think, what other gesture can we talk about? And don't go there and be pointing. Don't point. I think it's kind of rude. It's kind of rude to point. And another gesture that you can look at, and another gesture that you can also consider is the open palm. Yeah. So something like this. So the open palm. The open palm is kind of a trust building gesture. Yeah. It's more like you're saying, I have nothing to hide. It's just a psychological thing. So gestures are also kind of important when you are presenting. You just have to know the one you're comfortable with and work around that. Then part 5, handling emotions and any other thing. It's always normal to be nervous. Your heart will definitely pound. Sometimes you can prepare, but you still be anxious, right? If you are someone who is always facing anxiety, that is okay. Always breathe. Take a sip of water if you need to slow down. And your body language should always be up straight. Make eye contact. And if you can't make eye contact with them directly, then watch the top of their heads. This actually conveys confidence. You don't want to go there and be looking like you are afraid of them. Make sure they know you're also confident, even if you have to fake the confidence. So even if you are shaking inside, make sure your posture conveys confidence. Then again, remember the why. Remember what inspired you to choose this topic in the first place. That is actually your passion. So let it shine through. What actually forced you to choose this topic, or what actually forced you to continue through with this topic? That is your passion. Probably your degree, probably your financial situation, probably your professional situations, okay? Let those passion or reasons shine through your presentation. And remember, it is a conversation, not a battle. It is a conversation. If the examiners are debating with each other, fine, that is a good sign. I think I've encountered one situation like that. If the examiners start debating with each other, that is a good sign. Probably you've stimulated their intellectual curiosity. Let them talk. Your job is just to present what you found and explain it properly and perfectly. And finally, when it is over and they ask you to leave the room or you take your leave, know that you've done every single thing that you can. Know that you've done the best that you could, because you went there prepared and you are your own expert. You have undertaken an incredible journey, and the defense is the final chapter where you get to share what you have learned. So go in there, own your expertise, and have a conversation about the work that you are rightly proud of. I believe in you. You've got this. All the best.